This is 9/11 Freefall.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of 9/11 Freefall. I am your host, as always, Andy Steele. Tonight, my guests are going to be Mikie Smith and Samantha Penn. They're two great activists with AE 9/11 Truth, and they're part of the Southeast Region Local Action Group, talking about some of the stuff that they're doing down there in sunny Florida and Georgia and all the other states in that area. And talking about a conference that's going to be taking place in February this year, right around the time of my own birthday, I might add. So if you want to give me a birthday present, get yourself down to this conference and meet some great people, get around some like-minded folks who are awake to the 9/11 truth evidence and are willing to do something about it. They'll be going into some details about it. A lot of the details are still being fleshed out, but I know these guys are going to make a great showing of it because these are some very dedicated people I'm bringing on this show tonight. All right, before I interview my guests tonight, we're going to do what we do every week. We're going to take 10 seconds of silence to remember the victims of 9/11 and their families and all the people who died in the wars that followed 9/11. We'll do that beginning now. And that's 10 seconds.
The views expressed on this show by guests and the host on issues outside of the 9/11 controlled demolition evidence are the opinions of those individuals alone and do not necessarily reflect those of architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth.
I'm joined today by two of our great activists at AE 9/11 Truth. My first guest is Mikie Smith. He's an electrical engineer out of Georgia, and he heads up the Southeast Region Local Action Group team. He's been on the show before. He'll be talking about some of the great things that are going to be going on here in the Southeast Region. Mikie, welcome back to 9/11 Freefall.
Hi there. It's great to be back, Andy.
Joining him is Samantha Penn. She's one of the great volunteers at AE 9/11 Truth also. She's worked in telecom engineering, and she has a science background she'll be getting more into. She's a writer, and she does a lot with media outreach for AE. Samantha, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andy. It's great to be on 9/11 Freefall.
Now, you guys may be new to the some audience members. Samantha, I know you are. So just starting with Mikie here, can you tell us a little bit more about yourselves?
Well, I've been an engineer for about 30 years, and I came here to Atlanta, Georgia to go to college, and I just stayed. And alongside my technical career, I have always been an activist for social justice and opposed to war and empire, and really just all about spreading the truth and expanding people's consciousness. So it's more than just about individuals. We want everybody to be able to participate in society, and we want social justice and an end to these wars. So that's what drew me into 9/11 Truth, is that there wasn't enough being done to really expose the heinous, fraudulent science that was being perpetuated by the governments. So that's why I started doing it.
And that's why we're still going strong here, because the movement is getting bigger. A lot more people are waking up to this thanks to the efforts of people like yourselves. Samantha, tell us again more about yourself and also how you woke up to the 9/11 controlled demolition evidence.
I have a great passion for freedom and truth, and I love science. I was very passionate about physics, and I woke up quite shockingly. I was very shocked at 9/11 when I saw what it looked like buildings exploding, and I thought that on the following day, on September 12th, that we would hear something about who or how these explosions were perpetrated, and I heard nothing. And eventually, I let it go. And then when I heard about Building 7, and I realized that Building 7 had come down symmetrically and at free fall, well, then I knew that that was completely impossible for an organic collapse. So that's how I woke up, and I was, of course, very shocked and very disturbed.
Well, a lot of us have been, and there were a lot of people right on the day of 9/11 saying that there had to be explosives put in. I've played some clips of that before, and I think I've found some new ones. Now I'll be playing on this show at some point. So a lot of people were thinking, okay, there's going to be another aspect to this that comes out, that somehow the people that did this crime had gotten access to the buildings and were able to perpetuate something bigger than simple airplane impacts. But that never happened. They went with the jet fuel, bringing them down story, and here we are to this day. So that's why a 9/11 Truth Movement exists. That's why you guys are on this show. So what we're going to do, because there's a couple of things I want to talk about on the show, and there's going to be a conference taking place in Florida this year that we want our supporters to know about. But before we get to that, Mikie, you were just doing some actions in Miami with the ASCE recently.
Hometown.
Yeah, and I want our audience to get the next chapter in that story. So can you tell our audience about what you did in Miami?
That's right. I joined Wayne Costi, who's a professional engineer, an electrical engineer like myself, and Wayne and I both have been all over the world. As you have interviewed us before, we were in France this summer, and I was also in Belgium doing activism. We had been invited to a conference there that censored us at the last minute. Although we had submitted a paper that was accepted by a scientific committee by CEFI, which is the Society of the European Society for Engineering Education, and at the very last minute, upon landing, I mean, we hardly had a chance to gather our luggage from the carousel when we were informed that we were being censored. They basically withdrew our paper, and so. I've been working with Wayne for a number of years now with Architects and Engineers, presenter team, and we have been going around and challenging engineering societies, professional societies. In this case, it was an engineering education professional society, but all of the major disciplines of engineering, like civil engineering, electrical and electronics engineering, like the IEEE, which Wayne and I both belong to. We presented a paper last year in Chicago that was not censored, and so we were a little surprised that you go over to Europe, especially like in France, and we weren't expecting that kind of backlash at all. But it was very interesting. It was kind of like the excuses that were given to us by the university president for censoring us and withdrawing our paper. It's like they were anticipating everything that's happened, like just in the last month or so with the Paris shooting. So I mean, they were ready. They were ready for, it was like you can't talk about the truth because we have terrorism, and it was so overwhelming. But it's like, really, where? But it was clear the way they were talking about it that they were anticipating that this is not going to end with Charlie Hebdo, that it was going to be an ongoing thing. So. And people here in this country have felt the same way. So Wayne and I have been going around the country and in Europe as well, going to these professional engineering societies and protesting by submitting science research papers that expose the flaws that are the very foundation of the government's false narrative, this fraudulent science of magically exploding and imploding buildings. So that's what we were doing in Miami last month. We went down to the American Society of Civil Engineering Forensic Congress. It was a Forensic Engineering Congress, which only meets every 3 years. And while we were there, we were protesting because it was very clear that they were not going to even allow us to have a booth at this show, which is unusual. We were at least been able to exhibit in the trade show booths, like for American Institute of Architects, AIA, And in this case, they returned our check. In fact, Samantha was working on that project when they returned the check, and she had been pleading with them to give a reason, and they really didn't want to give a reason. So we went down there to see if we could be included, but they were really adamant about excluding us and denying. So we protested outside. We had a vigil outside. We had a couple of big signs, and we're calling the American Society of Civil Engineers, tolerating fraud, and taunting them. And their members had, while they were going in and out of the convention at the downtown Hilton in downtown Miami, they had to deal with us. And, we had, of course, pamphlets and DVDs and so forth to educate people. And even the family members, wives of a lot of these engineers, were very curious about why we were out there. So especially in South Florida heat in the middle of November, it can be quite hot to be in a three-piece suit, but we did it nonetheless. So that's why that was my main reason for going to Florida, all the way to South Florida. But I also met up with activists while I was down there since it was very close to the Thanksgiving holiday, and I'm a native Floridian myself and have family everywhere. I went to the Tampa Bay area to meet up with Gabriel Day, and that's how this whole idea of a St. Petersburg, Florida conference in February, the first weekend of February, the 5th and 6th and 7th, we're going to host a regional East Coast. Anybody that wants to come, anybody from the region or beyond. So that's all coming together now. We'll have invitations going out very shortly.
What were the responses of people to you out there in Miami?
Well, the interesting thing is the average people on the street in downtown Miami were very friendly towards us. It was usually we don't even get that much. We had a lot of sympathy. I ran into people. It's a very international city, so there's always a lot of Western Europeans there on any given day. You run into people from, of course, all over Latin America. Miami is the gateway to the Americas, as it's known. And so, but I met an architect from Spain. We ran into a mechanical engineer. I believe he was from Jamaica, and he and his partner, who was the civil engineer who owned a firm, he just happened to be walking by. They were thrilled that we were taking this on, and luckily we had those wonderful, beautiful three-fold brochures that Ted Walters created for the AIA convention this past spring in Atlanta, and we were able to give those out with extras for them to take back to their offices. So people were very friendly, and they totally identified with the level of corruption that there is, because a lot of people come here from other countries. They think, oh, America's is great. It's so much less corrupt. I don't think they think it's like paved. The streets are paved with gold or anything, but they've been given this this idealistic notion that things are less corrupt here. And then they hear about 9/11. It's like, ooh, that's not cool at all. So they really the 9/11 truth message really seems to resonate with the public. And we were pleasantly surprised. We didn't get anything thrown at us, and no one threw any coffee at us or anything. So it was nice.
Now, Samantha, when you're doing this kind of outreach in your area, have you noticed any changes in the way that people perceive you or perceive the scientific information you're giving them since when you first started? Has it changed at all?
I think that people are much more accepting of the information now, that there's not as much tension or hostility towards the information. We've experienced a lot of cognitive dissonance in the past, but now things seem to be much easier. When we were at the AIA convention in May and here in Atlanta, the professionals that I spoke to were actually very ready to receive the information and could understand it in just a minute or two of conversation. So that was really a positive experience.
I'm seeing that too. I mean, I see that the attitudes of people are changing, and I think it helps in the approach that AE 9/11 Truth takes, the refined approach of simply sticking to the science, sticking to what can be proven, and pointing out the rationality of our argument. I mean, simply calling for a new investigation, what can it hurt? Just to address the very reasonable questions that have been raised and the very unreasonable omissions that NIST has left in its report. I say it every week. The structural features left out of Building 7's design, that when you include them, completely debunk their theory of what happened. I can't stress that enough because that's a really big sticking point. It should be with NIST and the greater movement. It certainly is with me. You can't just simply leave out aspects of a building to make your conclusions work out. That's not science. That is simply a cover-up. That is something I consider even criminal. Whether or not it is legally, I don't know. But in an investigation like this, it certainly should get somebody in some trouble. So let's talk about this conference coming up. A little bit more about it. Who are some of the speakers you guys are trying to get to come down to it?
Well, we're actually still inviting people, so we don't have like a really firm agenda just yet. But we have a lot of people who are very interested. Kevin Ryan is interested in coming. We've got other invitations going out. So we wanted to have a really flexible kind of agenda that could be molded by the people who are going to actually participate in it. And so in the coming days, we'll probably see a lot more of the structure fleshed out. But for now, we've got some workshops. We're inviting individual projects. There's people, a lot of citizens research projects that are going on out there. And it's not the thing that this conference is that's attractive about this conference is not just an AE conference. We're inviting people with other concerns and other truth movements. A lot of people are very concerned about the ongoing, false flags that just seem to be cropping up everywhere on all kinds of, violent terrorist attacks and things like that, where there's a number of anomalies. And so there are people throughout the world that are trying to piece together the jigsaw puzzle pieces the way we have been doing with 9/11 for the last 10 years. So we wanted to open that up. Also, people want to do positive projects that like permaculture and organic gardening and things like that. So there's quite a movement in the Tampa Bay area around that. And the same people that do a lot of the 9/11 truth activism are also involved in other things. So we wanted to open it up for people and have workshops. One of the workshops that they're going to be doing is a tech tools workshop for activists to organize, some online tools and software tools and things like that, and other tricks to make it a lot easier to organize stuff. So that's just one of the many things that's going on. But we hope to attract some really big all-stars there. Richard Gage is talking about coming and maybe presenting Saturday night. I mentioned Kevin Ryan. We're trying to get an invitation and get conversation going with Jonathan Cole, who lives very close by, to join us. So, and this is tentatively right now. We don't have the venue totally nailed down, but we wanted to do it in an activist community. So that's we're aiming. This is not just like another hotel conference room. It might end up in one. So I hesitate to name the venue just yet, just because we don't have anything on ink on paper just yet. But we're very close to having that in the next day or two, and we're just going to be building from there.
So at the time this is being done, a lot of the details are still being fleshed out, folks, but you can keep track of it at AE 9/11 Truth. I think they'll have advertisements, and then they're also going – you can go to 911 Free Fall, too. I'm going to post stuff about this as well. And how can we keep track of new developments in the event?
Well, they can email me directly. I'm at M as in Mike, M Smith at ae911truth.org, and Samantha is S as in Samantha, Penn, Penn, the same, at ae911truth.org, and we will continue to do this. There's going to be stuff that's going to be going out. We'll probably put out like an email blast very shortly to raise awareness about what's going on. There's a lot of people up north that would probably love to get down to sunny Florida in the middle of February or at the beginning of February to get together with other like-minded people. So we're hoping we'll probably have some people coming from out of town, and we're going to organize some logistics to help people get together, and some affordable housing and so forth, and hotel rooms and stuff. So.
Well, there you go, folks. And see, a lot of times people can use these kinds of events as an excuse to have a vacation. So if you don't want to go to Disney World, but you want to go to Florida, I mean, Florida in the middle of February is still beautiful. And I think this would be a good opportunity to get around some like-minded people, find out some more information, and make those contacts. See how you can make a difference with people in the Southeast region. This is what all the local action group teams are about. It's about activism, growing those numbers, and creating that base that's needed to be able to affect change in this country on the 9/11 truth issue. And I want to hear from both of you guys. We can start with Mikie and then Samantha. What kind of theme or feeling do you want people to get from this conference when they come away from it?
Well, I would say it's about empowerment. We want to empower communities for people to be able to step forward and do the kind of organizing and participate in the kind of world-changing activities, whether it's just being a really positive force for your family, the kind of food that you're able to grow yourselves, and permaculture, and getting the truth out. A lot of people are completely unaware of all the fun facts that we take for granted because we live in a kind of a tight community. But a lot of people don't realize how many strong technical people out there, scientists and engineers and chemists, that are really active in this movement. And it's difficult for people to understand this is more than just the quote unquote folkloric conspiracy theory. There really is a lot of science backing up what we have to say, and we want to be able to pursue science. We want citizens out there to do more and more of their own research and come to their own conclusions. We want critical thinking. That's one of the things that Sam and I, as educators and working with students, high school and college and college prep, you want people to be critically thinking about this, because we're going to need our own resources, our own intellectual resources more and more as time goes on. It's becoming very self-evident.
I completely agree with Mikie that we want people to be empowered and know that one person absolutely can make a huge difference.
Exactly right. I mean, one of the things that attracts people to a lot of what we do is, we bring people together from across, regions. There's people that didn't know there were people in the next town over or the next county that thought like they do. So one of the things that we have as a huge resource, from coast to coast, from really and beyond, in Canada and Europe, there are people that weren't aware of the fact that there were other people that thought like they did. And that's why we built this beautiful organization. I call it the house that Gage built. Mr. Gage, the architect, built this house, and we've got a huge list of people who are really just, everybody's just trying to get together, and we're helping people get together.
All right, so this is still being planned, folks, but there's lots of opportunity here. A big chance for you to go down to sunny Florida, be around like-minded people, like I said. So keep track of this, and if you didn't get down the email addresses, what I love about this show and working with people at AE 911 Truth is that if anybody wants to contact them, you just got to figure out what the first letter of their first name is, and then what their last name is, and you can email them at AE 911 Truth. But this is still being planned, and I know that this is going to have some great guests in the end. You already talked about some people you're trying to line up. So let's get into local organizing here for your region, because we're sort of doing that theme here for the last couple of months, talking to local action group people, because I want the audience to get involved. I mean, activism can be done whenever you have a chance to do it. Mikie does a lot of it. Samantha does a lot of it. But as I always say on this show, small things done well every day is going to be what wins this war for us. And so if you just have time only to forward a news story on your Facebook, or to pick up the phone and call talk radio when the moment strikes you, or that you feel like inserting the Building 7 issue into the dialogue, that can have a major impact too. So I want people to learn from you guys here. So talk about just local organizing with AE 9/11 Truth, what the typical day or week is like for you, and how you go about getting everybody together.
For us here in Atlanta, this is a big hub city. It's a big transportation and communications hub where people pass through here from all over. So this is a big convention town. So when the AIA had their convention here in the spring, back in May, it was very natural for people to come together, and it really brought us all together. We just put out the call on our list, and different people have participated in the past. They may not have time, but they saw the importance of what we were trying to do by putting on the biggest and best trade show booth that architects and engineers had ever had in its history. And we got the biggest space ever at this conference. And I mean, it was huge. It really made quite a splash. And we organized a little logistics team. We picked up people from the airport and helped people get around. Just really supporting people with information. Just, Samantha was just really one of the many workhorse people out there that were just getting loads of emails out to everybody and calls, so that everybody knew where to go and what to do. And we would keep huddling together and trying to figure out, okay, we haven't forgotten anybody. So we just kept moving geometrically out there to the group, and we had a super team from across the country build the biggest and best trade show booth this organization's ever had.
Now, I remember when I was doing the C-SPAN campaign, when I would call supporters, it almost got this feeling, like I was talking to people who were out on a deserted island, and I feel like the Coast Guard, they're so happy to hear from AE 9/11 Truth that they want to talk about 9/11 for hours, because they may not be around a lot of people that are awake to this, maybe not around a lot of people who want to even hear about it. And so they're happy to get that call from somebody who they know is going to be awake to it, and they can sort of commiserate about the situation. Samantha, when you were making those calls that Mikie brought up, did you get that same kind of feeling? Did you got any interesting insight into kind of the reactions of people when they heard from you?
Well, I absolutely did feel that people felt isolated and alone, and that they, in many cases, their own families and friends had labeled them crazy or a conspiracy theorist, and they really needed to reach out to someone and talk. And I would like to encourage everyone to volunteer to be an activist in your area, because you will be surprised at how many people know about 9/11 in your area, and you can join with them and be active and really make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, this is so fulfilling to do this. I've been at 9/11 Truth since 2006, I want to say. That's when I started really questioning it. So it's hard to mark a date, because I didn't know that I'd be doing this 10 years or 9 or 10 years later. So I didn't make a note of it on the calendar, like this is the day I started. But no, this is something that is going to, I think, change the world. I think we are winning. It's just that, the New York Times isn't reporting on it on the front page. It's all stuff that you just notice in the interactions with people and in reactions of, even establishment people to this. So yeah, this is something that is a chance for you to participate in history. I've said it so many times. Some Chinese guy somewhere said at one point in history, "May you live in interesting times." Well, here you go, folks. This is the most interesting time in American history, to say the least. And the stuff that Americans are made of is all about what we are doing. I mean, think about the abolitionists, the people that sacrificed their lives in some cases to step forward and do the right thing for their fellow man. This is what 9/11 Truth is about. It's from the same stock. So I'm absolutely proud of everybody out there, you guys included, who do what you do to help this movement along. How can people join you? There may be people who have not been called by AE, may not be on our rolls, but they're inspired now. They want to join, and they are in the southeast region. How can people join your group?
You can go to the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth website, ae911truth.org, and you can see that there. I forget exactly the name of the page, but there is a contact for regions, and get connected with people in your area. And my email's there for Georgia and Atlanta, and there's a lot of ways. I mean, we have Facebook pages. We've got a great we have a Georgia activist sort of umbrella coalition group that's very inclusive of AE 911 Truth and many other projects, other community activist-oriented projects. So people get on our Facebook page. They call, they sign up with AE, and people join the conference calls with AE that are organizing almost every day of the week. So we've got all kinds of projects that people can volunteer to be a part of. There's a lot of retired people that are donating their time and doing outreach and presenting the DVD the DVD formats, the video formats, for Experts Speak Out and Blueprint for Truth, and they a lot of them have their own slides that they use to augment. We did a mini presentation while we were in Miami to a very small group of people that Samantha was instrumental in helping to pull together at the last minute, because that whole project literally was thrown together at the last minute. We still got 8 people besides me and Wayne who joined with us and watched Experts Speak Out, the 1-hour version, in the Marriott Biscayne Bay, which is right behind the downtown Hilton. In the little restaurant downstairs, we had our own little conference room, and that's how you get to meet people, and really, it's the socializing, it's the opportunity to have question and answer at the end, and people being able to reach out to each other and say, yeah, I work on this kind of stuff, and I didn't know there was anybody in my neighborhood like you, and people discover each other by coming to these events that we call them presentations, but really any kind of a gathering can be a vehicle for change and getting people together. So there's a lot of different modes out there.
Right, folks. We don't have a secret code word here in 9/11 Truth to let other people know that you know about it. You got to simply speak out about it, start being bold and strong in your words, be unapologetic like Mikie here is, and presenting the truth to the people that need to hear it. And other people will have that courage to step forward and speak out also. You just got to be willing to take that first step. And I want to get an idea from both of you, because this is something, I mentioned it earlier, but sometimes people need ideas. They want to know, when I say small things done well every day, what are these small things done well? And I always tend to say the same things because they're things I would do, but maybe people have different ideas. Maybe you guys have a different activity idea for something small people can do each day. So I want to hear it from you. What do you think are some small things that people can do to get the word out?
One of the interesting things that I see happening that's done on a very small, very incremental level that anybody could do that doesn't have a lot of time. There are people that research the work that we do, because we've got these different projects, research projects. There are people all over the world, literally, that are tracking down information like blueprints of the World Trade Centers and finding various artifacts that have been released to museums and memorial parks and things like that, and putting together the puzzle of and sort of archiving these pieces. And that might be one of the more mundane things that you can do, but it actually helps us a lot, because it helps us keep track of the inventory out there. But there's people that are working with Hollywood producers and actors that are trying to get films produced and plays put on, cultural events. Musicians are always trying to connect with people and write songs and create plays, and there's just a lot of different things that you can do. I mean, if you just get on the internet and decide to just speak up, like on a Facebook page. I mean, there's all these big sports teams have these huge Facebook pages and blogs and things like that. A lot of people have found that you can jump in there and because some of the sports stars, some of the big coaches, I forget the name of the Seattle Seahawks coach that's questioned 9/11. It was very, very, very interesting in the way he challenged somebody. I think it was like a 4-star general or something who had retired from Iraq, and he was really just strongly questioning that. It's like, that's really bold, man. Those are some of the big people up there, but we also need a lot of people on the ground level to support those people, because they come under tremendous fire. It's amazing how little freedom there really is in the so-called Western democracy world. You hear all this idealistic 9th grade civics class philosophizing about how free the West is, and I mean, there's total censorship going on now in universities and high schools. They really, really do not want people stepping out of line. So one of the things that's a shame is that so many of the people we have to support us that are in a great position or like have to wait till they retire, but we need to create a situation where people aren't afraid to step out, and the tables turn, and it's going to be the other way around. At some point, we're going to reach a kind of strategic equilibrium where the people who are in charge are the ones that are going to be really scared. And you can see that all the time, like people get involved in C-SPAN, and Andy, I know you've been really active with the C-SPAN activism. It really puts a lot of these politicians and Congress people on the spot when so many people know that there was something rotten, and that the 9/11 truth is not going to be just ignored, or there's nothing to see here, folks. Move along. People aren't going along with it.
No, and what's funny too is that most people now are open to this. I was just talking to somebody who I just met, making conversation. They asked me what I do. I explained it, and it was funny. This person already was able to throw out a bunch of evidence points here to me, and I said, "Oh, so you've heard of us?" And she said, "Yes," and it's scary stuff. I'm kind of curious. I'm still waiting for an answer, but and why it's scary and why people are afraid. I understand, rather some implications from the evidence, but there's more of us in America who are awake to this than the people who are actively involved in the institutions trying to cover it up. So if anything, I don't think that we are the ones who should be frightened. We should be empowered. I was talking to somebody on I was trying to get internet from Comcast, and this person came out what I do, because I said I need internet for work, and I ended up waking her up to Building 7 over this. I told her to Google it, and we got in a hold with a customer service lady I was able to talk to. So there are opportunities everywhere for you to reach out to people and talk about Building 7, and if you're not apologizing for it, or not begging them to think you're a conspiracy theorist, or not begging them to not think you're a conspiracy theorist ahead of time, show confidence in your words, know your stuff, and present it in a way that is the most reasonable, like we do here on this show. People will be interested and will look into it. Enough time has passed. Samantha, your ideas for small things that could be done each day to get the message out?
Well, we have a lot of ideas to take action on our volunteer page at ae911truth.org. I suggest just starting out simple if you're a beginner, and just start a conversation with a neighbor or a friend or a family member and say, "Hi, did you know about Building 7? Do you know how it came down?" And just start with a question. That's usually a little bit better than a statement, because people can become alarmed very quickly, because they're very uncomfortable with this information. I've had many people, as I've said before, tell me how they've been shunned and ridiculed and even attacked, verbally attacked, for just stating simple facts, just simple scientific evidence. So I always try to say, when someone attacks you with ridicule, just be calm and show them the evidence.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I think that's the one of the strongest things that we've all learned is that the people who are really hell-bent on trying to censor and shut us down are absolutely scared to death of the evidence. They will not talk about the evidence. And that's from the highest offices in the land, the highest science offices in the land, all the way down to the schools where your kids go. They really, really are frightened of the evidence because the evidence speaks for itself. It's like, it's not about me. It's not about Andy or Sam or even Richard Gage. It's like, even if we weren't here, if we'd never stumbled into this and been bitten by the truth bug, as it were, somebody else would have to deal with this. I mean, the evidence stands on its own. It's not about just one person because they can make fun of anybody. But that's all they can do. They can hurl names at you and call you, conspiracy theorists and tinfoil hat wearer and, unpatriotic. A lot of service people get that. A lot of people in the service get beat up by other service people for not being patriotic enough. It's as if the best way to practice your First Amendment rights of free speech is to not practice it. It's like that's basically what they want. They want you to live in this Orwellian world of these crazy narratives that you can't question authority. And if you do, you do so at your own peril. But what happens when the whole authority is rotten to the core? It's like, what happens next? They could start World War III any moment. They're really aping to do that in the Middle East and against Russia and China, and they're just really, really crazy. But they think that we're crazy for questioning their narratives. That's amazing, and that should give anyone pause. Even if you don't agree with us, you should want to know. Well, and that's kind of like how I came into this whole thing. I really didn't want to approach the whole thing because at the very beginning it was a conspiracy theory where there wasn't a lot of evidence. But you knew by the way that the behavior of the official line and the people who were desperate to defend the official story, how fanatical they were and abusive they were to anybody that would dare question. You knew there was something wrong. They had a lot to hide.
No, that's what woke me up is that even before, I started looking into Building 7, but I just noticed that the media, and I talk about it collectively in this sense, but the way they acted, it was almost like they were trying to cover something up, almost like they weren't letting these people speak. And you would get somebody like Stephen Jones on Tucker Carlson, and they would not let him show the video of Building 7 going down.
Exactly. They had a lot to hide.
Yeah, and so your red flags should be going up, and then when you actually look into the science and realize just how simple it is, I can't. A lot of people, look, folks, we're actively sending information to people, and there's a lot of architects who are slowly but surely waking up and saying, yeah, you got a point here. I just can't wrap my mind around that. Why they would do that. That seems to be the only sticking point with a lot of people now is they say, yeah, you present a reasonable argument. I just don't get why they would do that. Well, it doesn't matter why they would do that. Science proves it. All right. When the science proves it, you need a new investigation. That's all he is asking for. Now, Mikie, and I want both of you to answer this. The answer here is sort of something that is different from person to person, but you touched on it. How would you describe 9/11 truth and its relevance to the world today?
I would describe it. It's straight up. It is the key to stopping all these wars. And there's all these ridiculous narratives, and it's like it just keeps going on and on that they want more and more conflict, and there's more orchestration of the whole false flag narrative, no matter where you go, and it's really a normal part of warfare. You know, it's like Winston Churchill used to say, you know, the truth has to be protected in a blanket of lies. You know, and it's basically disinformation. You know, informational warfare is what's being conducted right now around the world, and you know, and it's all about big money and you know, access to resources, petroleum resources, and pipelines, and you know, say you hear the term Pipelinistan, and that's a lot of what is happening in Syria. We have to break with this ridiculous notion that, oh, you know, Uncle Sam's over here just minding his own business, and all of a sudden, you know, all these troublemakers are out there in the world, and you know, and they're not even trying to hide that they've been supporting Al Qaeda and ISIS the whole time, you know. So it's like in some ways, it's ridiculous for them to call us conspiracy theorists. It's like to say that we're crazy for saying that something could be or is very likely an inside job, or even if something is an inside job. The anthrax attacks that happened right after 9/11. I mean, you hear all these iconic references to 9/12. You know, like Glenn Beck talking about this 9/12 movement, and we're going to change America. And then you know, there's all these anthrax attacks and attacks, you know, threats against any members of Congress or the Senate that would dare question the narrative, and we're having death threats made against them with you know, these anthrax letters and stuff like that. Well, you know, how can they say that they've made the world safer, or you know, George Bush protected, you know, everything was great right after 9/11. It's like we never had we didn't have another 9/11. It's like, oh really? Well, what about 9/12? What about the anthrax attacks? And it's like, this isn't even controversial. The FBI even admits that it was an inside job. So how can they ridicule us for being conspiracy theorists when they admit that the anthrax attacks were in fact an inside job by, you know, whoever they accused and conveniently had suicided? You know, this poor scientist, Dr. Bruce Ivins, I believe is his name, the Bethesda, Maryland, you know, the chemical warfare scientist that didn't have any real relevant background in this biotechnology for what it would take to weaponize these anthrax spores. It's like, it's not even controversial that it was an inside job. It's like the FBI is saying that it is.
And you mentioned the 9/12 movement from Glenn Beck. I've heard this on the radio. Folks, I do listen to talk radio when I'm driving, even if I don't like the hosts. And I've heard him mention this, and he talks about how wonderful America was, how we had all stood together. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially that's his argument. Well, he must have remembered a different day, because I remember people being pretty bloodthirsty on 9/12. I remember turning on the radio and a radio host going through an entire laundry list of countries and dismissing them as if they had done something to us, because they might potentially object to whatever the United States' response would be to 9/11. Going through France, we saved your butt in World War II, so shut up. China, you're communist, so shut up. I mean, just irrational. And that's what I remember from 9/12. Everybody was ready to quote-unquote turn they didn't even know who they wanted to turn into a parking lot, but they wanted to turn somebody into a parking lot. So that's what I remember from 9/12. The goal for 9/11 Truth, in my opinion, for myself, I'm just speaking for myself, is to turn it back to 9/10, to get us back to some degree of normalcy, but a little bit more vigilance. So maybe 9/10 in a parallel universe where people are not letting this happen. And you make mention about people saying George Bush kept us safe after 9/11. Well, even if you believe the official story, what about before 9/11? I just laugh when I hear these arguments. Samantha, what do you think about 9/11 and its relevance to the world today? 9/11 Truth.
Well, 9/11 Truth is still extremely relevant. We had a lot of people die on 9/11, but we've had many people die since 9/11 because of the official story of 9/11. The United States government uses the official story of 9/11 to convince us to engage in illegal wars, unconstitutional wars. There's a divide and conquer strategy going on, saying there's your enemy and we have to go to war. But also it's being used to destroy the Constitution and our civil liberties, which is something that everyone should be concerned about. Because even if you don't stand up for your civil liberties or those of your children, then you're not going to live in a free country anymore.
That's right. Not going to be around.
I agree with you, obviously. I mean, the Constitution was one of the second victims of 9/11 and the Patriot Act and everything else that followed in the post-9/11 world. It's one of the reasons that I keep in this movement because, like I said, we need to restore it back to a time of somewhat normalcy again. Take a breath and just acknowledge what happened and deal with it as a country. I know we are strong enough to do that. And I know you guys, like I said, are very passionate and very active with AE 9/11 Truth. This is something I ask guests on this program from time to time. I'm going to ask you, what keeps you going? What keeps pushing you? We'll start with Mikie.
Well, I think that the huge groundswell of support that we've had over the last almost decade now, since we got AE started. There's a lot of people all over the world that are really counting on us. There's a lot of people that feel like they can't speak out. And I know that there's people in government, they're future whistleblowers, but there's whistleblowers that inspire us as well. I mean, one of the things that always annoys the hell out of me about the deniers of truth is that they'll say, if that was true, somebody would have talked. Well, look at all of the people that have been screaming from the rooftops that have been completely whited out from the official media and the official narrative. I mean, Colleen Rowley, I met, an FBI counsel for the FBI field office in Minneapolis. They already had the, Zarqawi's laptop and all the information. They were getting it back to the headquarters, and it was all completely sat on, and that was before 9/11. So, and he was supposedly the 20th hijacker. But, they had all this evidence. There was all this. There was no fewer than 17 countries, several of them not exactly friendly to the United States. There were countries as diverse as, Russia, China, but also like Cuba and Venezuela. Their intelligence services all gave intelligence to the CIA and the White House and, State Department saying that there were going to be attacks, against buildings and airlines being used as missiles and cruise missiles. And they did not act on it. They sat on it. If you look at all the details, there's got to be many thousands of public employees that know one little piece of the jigsaw puzzle, and we will uncover it someday. It's just it's kind of like them trying to destroy evidence. It's this massive evidence-destroying factory since 9/11, but they can't destroy it all. We find little pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, and they do fit together. And we're finding, we're fleshing out, little islands, just like you put together a jigsaw puzzle day after day. And there's people that keep coming forward every day. Every day there's somebody new finds out about Building 7 and said, "That's it. I can't remain silent anymore." So we're waiting for the day that there's just going to be, at some point there's going to be a flood, and that jigsaw puzzle is going to be way more pieces present than are missing.
Samantha, what keeps you going?
Well, the people that died on 9/11 keep me going. I still that's still very important to me. I'm very concerned about our soldiers who go to war and are damaged by war, and the ones that don't come home, and all of the families that have been destroyed by that. I keep going because I want to preserve our civil liberties against acts such as the NDAA. You can. There's a wonderful organization called PANDA at pandaunite.org, where you can take action against the NDAA. And I keep going for the whistleblowers to support them. They need to come forward and tell what they know, because this is something that's not going away. This is mass murder in broad daylight. This is destruction of the Constitution, and it is imperative that if you know something, that you step forward for your country, for your fellow Americans. And I'm just very passionate about it.
Yes, you are, and I'm proud of you guys for what you're doing, and I'm proud of the entire 9/11 Truth Movement for what it is doing to bring this issue to light. And here we go. We're heading into Christmas next week, and we got to keep in mind those people who died on that day and the people who died in the wars that followed, as we do every week here on the show, and keep that as a light burning in our souls as we pursue justice for them, because they don't get to spend Christmas with their loved ones this year. We do. Mikie and Samantha, thanks for all you do. Thanks for coming on 9/11 Freefall, and good luck with the conference.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Andy. You're amazing.
This program's on every Thursday night on No Lies Radio at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. You can also download MP3s of this show from the Internet Archive by going to 911freefall.com. This is Andy Steele saying have a great week and good luck.